Imagine dedicating decades of your life to public service. You put in the hours, you pass the required exams, and you build the necessary experience. You wait for the promotion you've earned, only to find out you were entirely excluded from the evaluation room. Your file was never even opened. There is a widespread assumption that working for the state comes with built-in guarantees. Many public servants believe the Indian Constitution promises them a clear, unimpeded ladder of career advancement as a basic term of their employment. That assumption is legally incorrect. The Constitution does not grant any government employee a substantive right to a promotion. What it does grant is a specific, uncompromising right to the procedure of consideration. This diagram of Article 16, Clause 1 illustrates exactly how this works. The text guarantees equality of opportunity for all citizens in matters relating to employment under the state. That single word, employment, expands outward into two distinct branches of legal protection: entry into service and progression within service. That second branch means equality of opportunity doesn't vanish the day you are hired. It is a continuous loop that extends throughout your entire career. Every time a higher position opens up, the constitutional protection of equal opportunity reactivates. The boundary of constitutional protection ends at the evaluation room door. The state retains total authority over who actually gets the job, but the highest law of the land guarantees you a seat at the table to be evaluated. If you read the raw text of the Constitution, you will not find the exact phrase, right to be considered for promotion. This specific principle is a judicial evolution. The High Courts and the Supreme Court of India actively built this framework to resolve disputes. They achieved this by reading Article 16 in tandem with Article 14, which guarantees equality before the law. If the state evaluates one eligible employee for a promotion but ignores another, it is treating equals unequally. This introduces a complex mechanical problem for the legal system. If the state has the final discretion over exactly who gets promoted, what precise conditions force the state to look at an employee's file in the first place? To prevent every minor HR complaint from becoming a Supreme Court case, the judiciary defined a strict mechanism that separates standard administrative choices from active constitutional violations. The Supreme Court acts as the architect of the boundary between state discretion and individual employee rights. In 1991, the court reviewed a case involving the Odisha Lift Irrigation Corporation. Here, they established a strict baseline rule: no government employee can demand a promotion as an absolute right. The state's needs and evaluations always take precedence over an individual's desire for a higher rank. 8 years later, in the 1999 Constitution Bench ruling of Ajit Singh v. State of Punjab, the court went a step further. They codified exactly how a public servant earns the legal right to force an evaluation. This logic gate visualizes the court's formula. It requires two precise inputs. Input 1 is strict eligibility. The employee must possess the specific degrees, diplomas, or years of service required by the government for the higher post. Input 2 is falling within the zone of consideration. A department might have 50 eligible engineers, but only 5 open positions. They draw a boundary based on seniority to decide how many files to review. You must be inside that boundary. When an employee meets both conditions, they have the credentials and they fall within the seniority zone, the logic gate completes. It triggers a fundamental right to consideration. At that exact moment, the state's procedural discretion drops to 0. They must evaluate the candidate's application. Refusing to do so is a direct infringement of the Indian Constitution. In practice, this constitutional right is exercised inside internal government panels known as Departmental Promotion Committees, or DPCs. These committees review the files of everyone who triggered that legal requirement. To see how fragile this process can be, we can look at a real-world stress test. A junior engineer named Govt Singh brought his case to the Punjab and Haryana High Court. Singh was completely left out of a critical DPC meeting. The committee convened, evaluated his peers, and issued promotions without ever looking at his file. The government defended its actions by claiming Singh held a diploma in civil engineering, which they argued disqualified him from the basic eligibility requirement. Because he lacked the first input, they reasoned he had no right to be considered. Looking at this split-screen flow, the High Court found the government had misinterpreted its own amended service rules. On the left, Kulwant's diploma legally satisfied the eligibility requirement, but on the right, administrative error intercepted his file before the committee could see it. The High Court ruled that this administrative failure was an active denial of Kulwant Singh's fundamental right to be considered for his promotion. Misinterpreting internal rules transforms a departmental oversight into a violation of constitutional equality under Article 16. Active exclusion is rare compared to the most common bureaucratic failure, passive delay. State departments frequently fail to hold DPC meetings for years at a time. This timeline tracks a 2022 case from the Manipur High Court. A group of senior police inspectors became fully eligible for promotion in 2007. The state simply did not convene a committee to evaluate them until 2021, a 14-year gap. For over a decade, these officers experienced total career stagnation. They performed their duties without the rank or the financial benefits they were legally entitled to be considered for. Below that, we see the dynamic of a similar case from the Himachal Pradesh High Court. Several senior high school lecturers were waiting for a DPC meeting, but they were already 57 years old. Their time to retirement was rapidly shrinking. If an eligible employee retires before a committee meets, their fundamental right is permanently extinguished. Because of this shrinking window, the High Court forced the state government to fast-track the meeting. These rulings all rely on a foundational precedent established by the Delhi High Court back in 2004. The Delhi High Court established that convening these promotional committees regularly is a mandatory constitutional imperative. It is not an administrative suggestion that the government can schedule at its own convenience. Claiming that a department was too busy or disorganized to hold a meeting is not a valid legal defense. In the context of constitutional law, administrative inaction is treated as illegal action. If a career is stalled for 14 years due to government inaction, how does a court repair the damage after the fact? The time is already gone. This animated timeline demonstrates the judiciary's legal remedy, deployed by the Manipur High Court: notional promotion. The court sweeps the timeline backward, retroactively anchoring the officer's promotion to the original 2007 vacancy date. The court mathematically erases the state's failure. The employee's seniority, pension calculations, and rank are adjusted as if the government had functioned perfectly and promoted them on time. Notional promotion functions as the judiciary's mechanism to ensure the state cannot profit from its own administrative delays. The core lesson of Article 16 is one of precision. The phrase right to promotion is legally meaningless. It must be permanently replaced with the right to be considered. This matrix plots the final balance of power. On the y-axis, representing state discretion, the state retains high-level control over the final outcome, who actually gets promoted. But when it comes to the procedure of evaluating eligible candidates, state discretion vanishes. Under the Indian Constitution, procedural fairness is guarded strictly. The simple, timely act of looking at a qualified employee's record is protected just as fiercely as the fundamental right to equality itself.